Why are these petroleum-based dyes in our food and in our medication in the first place?
Well, good question, Dana. I don't think we appreciated the potential risks to human health and child health when they were first introduced. Yellow dye number 5, for example, was noted to be a bright, vibrant yellow color as the byproduct of coal tar in the coal ash, and then people decided to put it in fabric, and then they thought, well, we can put it in food. The studies have caught up with the introduction of these petroleum-based chemical food dyes, and the data doesn't look good. Studies have shown an association with ADHD. It also makes ultra-processed food look more attractive for young kids, messing with their minds where they feel full and they want more of the food. And we've got an epidemic of childhood chronic diseases, so we are erring on the safe side and moving to remove these from the U.S. food supply.
This is a major, major win. And I have a plea also, quite candidly, for Democrats. I've met with Cory Booker. I've met with a lot of people that care about this issue. Where are you? Come to HHS, come to the FDA, and work with this administration on these unimpeachable issues. This is our children's lives at stake. We are poisoning our children. This is a monumental day of turning the tides in this country.
We're back again with the MAHA stuff. And one of the reasons I think the reason why MAHA is so popular in this day and age, and I honestly still believe that the reason why Donald Trump won the popular vote is because of the MAHA stuff, is the fact that many people have concerns over this stuff. And the fact that these institutions are so scared to revisit this stuff, because at the end of the day, science is based on doubt. Preconceived notions always get challenged when it comes to other things. But for the sacred stuff that these medical institutions hold very sacred, oh, these things are unchallengeable. They treat scientists like priests. Or whatever the science says goes. Whatever the scientist says goes. No, that's not how science works. Science is you have a theory, you test it in reality, and reality either validates it as true or false. But you as a scientist don't determine what's true or false. And if someone has a conclusion or a different conclusion from you, you look at their methodologies. Okay, how did they come to that conclusion? And you see if it has any validity in reality. And the negative results that we've seen with our health as a country, right? How we're responsible for, I forgot what one of the MAHA people explained something that I found was very profound. How are we, what, 40, I think, only 13% of the population, but we represent almost 20% of COVID deaths because of our chronic diseases? How is almost half our adults obese? We have obesity. Like, come on. If what the medical institutions in America were pushing was working, we will see a lot healthier outcomes. And a lot of the things that MAHA movement here, especially Dr. Marty McKire, sorry if I said that wrong, as the media tries to take jabs at RFK, is that I think the reason why RFK has so much trust is because we all know this is about legacy for him. And he's incentivized to act in the best interest of the American populace, not these medical institutions. Because RFK talks about how Donald Trump gets calls from soda companies, food companies, and Trump doesn't care because he's like, nah, this is part of the American people. The American people want this. I'm doing it for my legacy. And I think this segment here encapsulates perfectly the intentions and the interest, the self-interest that RFK and Donald Trump have in this. Let's take a look.
All dyes are going to be out of food. I told them a lot of other things too, and I'm going to keep my word. We're going to change things for real this time. So, and this is my legacy. It's President Trump's legacy. It's the legacy of all these people who've walked away from fortunes and going concerns, and we are disrupting this agency. We're taking it out of the hands of industry and we're putting it back in the hands of the American people. And we are going to have revolutionary change. It's not, listening to me today, if you think that we're not serious about this, you're making a bad judgment. So, and I have a president now behind me who does not care. He doesn't care what he's been called by every soda company, by every candy company, by every processed food company. And most of the time he tells me and says, you know, I don't care, you do what you need to do and I'm going to block for you. So I think things are going to change, and they're going to change dramatically over the next 4 years.
So I got a couple clips for you guys that I want to show how CNN attempts to try to frame this with the FDA commissioner. And as they attempt to phrase out these things, these should be good things. As you saw from the intro, they're like, where are the Democrats on this? I thought Democrats were talking about this for days. But all CNN wants to focus on, instead of focusing on the things that they promised to do, which was radical change, they want to focus on these people resigning. But to me, it's like, okay, what you resigning for? You're resigning to protect status quo. And I asked America, this is status quo actually making us healthier? No. Many Americans will say no, status quo isn't making us healthier. So why would an individual resign when people are trying to make changes to the system? Shouldn't you be a part of that discussion? But instead, you protesting the change. Why? Conflict of interest. And I find it fun. I don't understand why people blindly have this like positive view of government officials, like they're not corruptible, like they don't have personal interest. Everyone automatically acknowledges that with corporations, but for some reason with government, people don't have that same kind of skepticism. But I digress. Let's check out this clip and segment because I got more for you.
Dr. Makari, I do want to ask about something that happened at the NIH last week. Dr. Kevin Hall, who is a top researcher on this issue, ultra-processed foods, he quit because he says he experienced censorship under RFK. What is your response to this criticism? And more broadly, how concerned are both of you about losing somebody who is so focused on the issues that you care so much about, which is finding out about these ultra-processed foods?
Well, I don't know that individual. I understood that he resigned. I think there are some people who, when they are resigning, are taking some cheap shots. Look, Republican, Democrat, independent moms turned out to vote for President Trump on this very issue that Secretary Kennedy has championed. So I think we need to recognize getting petroleum-based food dyes is not a silver bullet. It's not going to instantly convert America's kids to being a healthy generation, but it's one step, and there's a lot of unity around this individual topic.
Yeah. Right. And to me, I take it as you don't care about the issue enough if you resign over the fact that you wasn't being heard. And I wonder what kind of arguments he was making. I bet you he was going against a lot of this stuff about, oh, we need to cite this, we need to cite that. We don't need to do this. And it probably ran counter to what RFK wanted to do. But CNN, right? You're supposed to give us the news, right? And this is I'm laying in on the media again. This is why people tune out traditional media, right? Instead of hearing these people out, okay, how are you changing? Okay, you remove processed foods. What else are you gonna do? What are your thought process here? Because they're the ones in power. You can scream and screech all you want. They're the ones in power. But this insistent framing, you see it. I got clip after clip for you because we're going to go through the clips today.
Somebody who was at the FDA, who left before you were confirmed, his name is Jim Jones. He oversaw food and nutrition policy at the FDA, and he said he was resigning because his work was compromised by thoughtless cuts at the FDA. Both he and Dr. Hall, what they're saying, again, is that they're excited about the MAHA movement. They're excited about food safety goals.
They're so excited that they resign in protest, defending status quo. And this is how Democrats get themselves in trouble, too. What metrics are you using to justify your defense of status quo? When status quo doesn't work, you're supposed to try something differently. Here's something different to try. And instead of working and influencing that different approach, you quit because you don't like the fact that they're challenging the preconceived notions of how things should be or how things were.
Goals. But is your ability to make meaningful progress stunted because the personnel are no longer in place to accomplish your goals with all of these cuts?
No, Dana, and I'm glad you asked because all the cuts were limited to communications staff. You would not believe the number of communications staff at the agency. Redundancies in IT and in legislative affairs and lobbyists from the FDA to the Hill. There's been a fiefdom culture, and we're now eliminating redundancies and consolidating those services. No cuts were made. There were no layoffs to scientists or food inspectors. And my job as commissioner coming in after those cuts is to make sure that the scientists and inspectors have all the resources they need to do their job well.
But they're resigning. See, narrative. Okay, the action was, hey, we cut all these communications people that we think were not needed. Scientists resign in protest saying that the cuts were thoughtless. political. I already told you the stats. 90% of Washington voted for the Democratic Party. I can assume, therefore, I assume that majority of these people that work in these government agencies lean or on the left. So if I find out these two guys are Democrats, I'll be like, of course you're saying that stuff. You're trying to impact them politically. You're trying to give them a political black eye by using your status as a scientist, resigning in protest to leave a bad impression about the incoming administration, the incoming policy change on health. Make it make sense. I'm excited for the MAHA movement, but there are thoughtless cuts. Then he explained the cuts, and then you go, America, you go in there and verify the cuts. You go, yeah, that makes sense to me. Why are scientists and researchers resigning over consolidating communications, removing lobbyists? Defending status quo.
See some cheap shots from an individual that takes a early retirement offering, and they might say, well, look, we're concerned, we're leaving because of safety concerns. But I can tell you there were no cuts to scientists or inspectors, and my job is to make sure that we're doing our job well in a more efficient way. Any discussion of cuts, Dana, has to mention that the FDA has doubled its number of employees since 2006. The headcount has increased by 100%. And so that's the important context when we understand how to make the organization more efficient.
So, for example, according to the CDC, foodborne illnesses are on the rise in the U.S. You're going to continue to inform people when there are outbreaks of foodborne illnesses?
Yeah, I think we're going to be more efficient because when you have over 100 communications staff, you lose that sense of owning the delegation of responsibilities. And that's our challenge. These transitions are never easy and the cuts are never perfect, but I think we're going to be stronger for it. And I do believe in the scientists and inspectors at the FDA.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say? These people are coming. My viewers are so, this is crazy, bro. This is craziness, man. Why? Like it's so hilarious how JFK, MAHA, they are so scared of change. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. They're scared of status quo being challenged, right? Because they're scared of the answer.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the role of the NIH in all this. One of the major problems that I think that that parents around the country have faced is when they go to the scientific literature, they come back with a stone wall. They hear that, well, the science hasn't been done, it's not rigorous. And part of the problem is that scientists are afraid to ask questions, basic questions that parents want answers to. Secretary Kennedy has asked me to, for instance, to initiate a study on autism, the cause of the rise in autism. It's a question that is at the front of the minds of so many parents across the country worried about their kids. And yet, scientific progress on this has been slow because scientists are frankly scared to ask the question. The goal,
because they're scared of the possible answer. This is my question. Look. Ask me a question I can't answer, not an answer I can't question. When you give me an answer that, autism has nothing to do with vaccines, and I question that premise, and you don't have much substantive evidence to affirm your claim, there's no studies that prove that it did. It causes autism. Is there studies that confirm that it doesn't cause autism? No, but there's no science, but there's no evidence that it does. Okay, so we just have a vague, like, we don't know what this thing is doing to us. Essentially, the mercury exposures from vaccines, that's not a concern for childhood development. And this is the kind of questions that a parent asks, because at the end of the day, we care more about our child than anyone in the world, usually. So when we see all these potential risks and you don't have anything to really assuage those risks, you wonder why on TikTok and on the internet you see these moms saying that they extend the vaccine schedule for their kids. They delay vaccines for their kids because they're trying to give their kids, they're not trying to expose their kids to so much mercury in a certain amount of time. The medical institutions want to get mad. The American people are losing trust in us, because when people are asking you questions in good faith and expecting to hear an answer that satisfies or assuade those concerns, you don't have them. You don't give them. And then when someone's saying, hey, all we're going to do is do more rigorous testing on the vaccines, of course America is going to vote for that. Of course people are going to be behind that. And you telling me, oh, polio vaccines work? No one's complaining about polio. People are complaining about the procedure. Hey, is giving the vaccine schedules that we have compared to the 1990s, are we giving our kids too much vaccines in too quick of a concession because of the mercury in these vaccines? These are the questions that people are authentically asking. And is this mercury an environmental toxin that's increasing the rate of autism? Like what RFK said in videos before, if you got so bad, if the medical institutions got so good at discovering autism, how come they're not finding autism in older American adults, only in young children? If you got better at diagnosing autism, why you ain't finding these baby boomers with autism? Why there ain't increasing rates of baby boomers with autism? You can't find them. So obviously, there's something that was introduced in the Americans' medical process that is inadvertently creating a side effect, aka increased rates of chronic disease and autism. But you don't want to get down to the teeth of that because it can hurt somebody's bag. That's how I take it.
The goal of my leadership at the NIH is going to make it so that those questions are no longer taboo among scientists. Scientists need to work on the things that actually are at the top of the minds of the American people. The mission of the NIH is to do research that extends the life expectancy and improves the health of the American people, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Since 2012, the United States has seen no increase in life expectancy, none. And it collapsed during the pandemic, and only recently has it started to come back up to 2019 levels. That is a situation that is a catastrophic failure of the American public health system, and it frankly is also a failure of American scientists to address the key drivers of this enormous chronic disease crisis we're facing. And I'm really grateful to Secretary Kennedy for his leadership, and I'm grateful to President Trump for his leadership in giving us the opportunity to turn the ingenuity of American scientists to the questions of how to improve American health and to make America healthy again. Thank you.
That's what those scientists resign against, to defend status quo. To not ask a question, to not question an answer given by the medical institutions, by the status quo. This is what you resigned against? And they pretend they're doing something good. It puts into question the intentions of these people when they're sitting here and saying, oh, it's thoughtless, it's this, it's that. No. It's about focus. It's about actually giving good outcomes. Because look at the bad outcomes we have. Life expectancy hasn't increased in the United States in over what? 6 years? What? That should raise eyebrows. That's alarm bells for American parents. What? You mean our life expectancy isn't increasing? We have one of the lowest life expectancies in the world? What's going on here? And people want questions to these answers to these questions, and the media establishment, the medical establishment saying, no, it's not these things. These things are hands off. You're not allowed to ask these questions. You're not allowed to question the premise of these things. Hell no. F that. This is why people have such a visceral reaction against censorship. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.